I would like to discuss about the charlatan. The charlatan in the Aquarian age is revealed within the psyche of a person. Yogi Bhajan has mentioned that the true character of a person is their psyche. Now, our psyche is developed from ages 0 to 8. Think of our psyche like the mainframe, and think of our experience as the data, the iCloud. Now, from ages 0 to 8 years old, we create the premise to our life making. And we know with any premise, either to a book, it maps out a blueprint, right? Like a guide. And from ages 0 to 8, we create a self-concept around what is possible, what is capable, and available for us. So as we know, each individual has a different premise to their life making. We know that the premise in our early childhood from ages 0 to 8 is constructed by the parent. The parent, the weakness of the parent, and the strength of the parent. So the premise to our life making, we very much play that out, right? We play out what is possible and capable and available to us in our childhood, in our adult life. And we do this involuntary until we begin to reflect, right? Reflect is like a mirror, right? Reflect, see the reflection, the projection of our childhood self-concept onto our adult life. So what that looks like in our reflection, right? They say literally reflection is looking into the mirror and seeing how your self-concept has created a restriction on what is possible, what is capable and available to you as an adult. So depending on our childhood experience, what is possible for us can be very expansive or can be very restricting. It just all depends on what kind of childhood we had, right? Some people as a child from 0 to 8, what was possible for them was very expansive. Let's say this child was raised in a very prosperous household where they could travel to Paris and they could travel to Saudi Arabia and all these kinds of experiences. So what is possible for them is very expansive. What is capable for them, let's say their household, their mother was, let's say she was a teacher, a professor, right? And she was marvelous, right? So what is capable for the child is something equivalent to that, right? Equivalent to the mother. And what is available to us, as we know, in our childhood is what resources we have, such as in my childhood, I had access to dance classes and soccer and basketball and art classes and music classes. So in my adult life, what is available to me is very broad. Right, it's very broad because in my childhood I had access to a lot of resources. And it can be very restricting for other people, meaning they didn't have access to dance classes because they couldn't afford it, or soccer, or basketball, or any form of recreational activity. Let's say they wasn't available to them, right? Let's say they were deep in poverty and the only thing they had was like maybe 4 books. Right? Or they went to a school that didn't have computers, right? So they had to do just all, or they didn't have a pretty big library, right? It was a very limiting library. So basically from 0 to 8, we create a self-concept around what is possible, capable, and available to us. And again, it's going to be different. It's going to be restricting. It's going to be expansive. And it's going to be different in different areas. Like I had a lot of resources as a child, right? My mother got me in a lot of recreational activities. So from 0 to 8, it was available, right? I had a lot of activity that was available to me. right? Even in the area, the geographic region I lived in, the school system, the district was very, very prestigious and revered. So within that school district, I art supplies, and my school was abundant, books abundant, computers abundant, costumes for theater abundant, right? So I was in what was available to me was very expansive. But let's say capability, right, is restricting in the way that my father was a bus driver, right, and he was content, but also had a lot of inner conflict about just his emotional fulfillment. So what is capable for me could be could be a little bit of restriction on that, right? What is capable for me to be emotionally fulfilled based off of, like, let's say my father and mother, there can be a little bit of a cap or a glass ceiling or a sound barrier to what is capable for me to experience emotionally and fulfillment wise. And this, with possibility, right? Let's say if we have a father who's an astronomer, right, and he's a professor of astronomy, what is possible for us as a child is to follow in that current, right? That pranic wind that adult created for us in our childhood, which is we could achieve as ambitiously as our, let's say, our father who's an astronomer, right? So it's all going to be different for each person. So with ages 0 to 8, we create our psyche, right? Our mainframe. And then the mainframe, we have to have a mainframe. We have to have a self-concept, right? We cannot have data, iCloud, without a mainframe, right? A mainframe is a container, like a psyche contains the experience, the information, the wealth of our contact with life, right? The life making. So we have to have a self-concept. And a self-concept in ages 0 to 8 puts a lot of pressure on us, right? We are given a lot of pressure from our parents, religion, ideology, caretakers, school system, you name it, to be, to live, to act, to think, to have the attitude of what is presented, right? What is common. So the pressure, right? Our psyche was created during immense pressure, right? And we say, I don't like pressure, right? Nobody likes pressure. But the pressure of our self-concept in our early childhood was significantly more pressure than, we say, the pressure of our job obligations, right? Our relationship obligations as adult, right? The pressure of our self-concept in ages 0 to 8 was a lot heavier than we think of the pressure of, like, my job and my relationship and I gotta pay my bills and my debt, right? Because we have to have a self-concept. We have to have a character, right? Without self-concept, we do not have a character, right? We have to have a character. And that's what our psyche is. Our psyche is our authentic code. It really reveals our integrity or lack thereof. In the Aquarian age, which is quite interesting about it, is that integrity is going to prevail over credentials and is going to prevail over status quo. In the Piscean age, integrity did not matter. You could have all the credentials, you could have all the status quo that you want, right? You could be the best of the best in whatever field or subject. You could have the most of the most, and still without integrity, and you could flourish in the Piscean age. You could live in your gold throne with all of your credentials and your awards and your gold medals, right? And not have integrity. But in the Aquarian age, what's happening is we're becoming very sensitive and intuitive. We are developing an intuitive awareness. So the winner in the Aquarian age is going to be integrity. So with that, there is this new, like we could say, this new concept coming on about the charlatan, Right? It's not new. It's been around for as long as human has been on planet Earth. But the charlatan, right? Whenever there's integrity, there's also the charlatan. It's called two sides to one coin, polarity planet. So one side of the coin is integrity. The other side of the coin is the charlatan, right? So in my experience of the charlatan in the Aquarian age, is a psyche that has the pressure, right? The pressure to excel, but does not have the pressure, like the greater pressure to excel with their talents and gifts, right? Because we have the pressure, right? The self-concept is a pressure, right? Pressure to have a character. Why do we want a character? Because we want to excel, right? But the charlatan is kind of, I want to excel at any means, right? There's the word excel, but you can excel at, stealing cars, or you can excel at breaking into people's houses and nobody knows, right? But the Aquarian age is, I'm the pressure to excel, right? The greater pressure than that is to excel with my talents and gifts, right? Because we can all excel, cheaply. It's easy to cheaply excel in the Aquarian age, right? That pressure, right? The self-concept, the characters, I want to excel. Either that's excel in healing, making amends, making peace. We want to excel. But in the Aquarian age, again, the Piscean age, we excel cheaply, right? We get all our gold thrones, all the territory, we took it all, right? And with no integrity. With the Aquarian age, the new mantra, the new mantra within all sort of yogic practices in recitation is the greater pressure beyond just to excel, right? The greater pressure is I want to excel with my talents and gifts. So with the self-concept, the psyche created in the childhood, right? The mainframe, the premise to our life making from ages 0 to 8 years old, we have a weakness and we have a strength, right? Just like polarity. Think of it like two sides to one coin, just like integrity and charlatan. And see charlatan as weakness, right? The holes in our strength, and see strength as the grit or the nervous system ability to beat pressure with pressure, right? And any sort of yogic science is beating pressure with pressure, right? Because that's the way that we're able to balance out the scales. So what that looks like with healing and repairing our 0 to 8 years old weakness, right? Let's say sex addiction, because we went through child molestation, right? We are determined to have sex with someone because it stimulates us, because we were stimulated very young, right? In child molestation, we were stimulated very, very young, so it created this like hormonal response, and then we got addicted to this hormonal response. So in the sex addiction, we want to continue to be stimulated in such way because we get a response from it, and we like that response, right? It's an imbalance within us, and we want to keep feeding that imbalance because it makes us feel, let's say, it makes us feel comfortable because that's all we know, right? And if we're given that at an early, 0 to 8 years old, a lot of times we involuntarily just keep feeding that self-concept or that, sex addiction, right, due to child molestation, because we created a hormonal interlock with ourselves, and we want to keep playing it out until we reflect, look in the mirror, right? Look in the mirror at the weakness, and how we heal and repair is to polarize it. So I'm determined to have sex now becomes I am determined to sexually honor myself, right? So sex addiction is destructive, right? And sexually honor myself is creative. So that's polarizing, right? It's like flipping the coin. And that's how we bring balance to the scales, because human wants to be balanced. That's what all human wants. Human wants the balance of the scales. And that's why we incarnate, because we're trying to balance out the scales, right? That's what karma is about, right? You know, some people, they incarnate to their families or for loved ones because they're trying to balance out the scales, right? We cannot just have blame and shame, right? We have to have blame and shame with compassion and expression, right? Because we have to balance out the scales to be well-rounded and to have understanding. There is no understanding as long as we just have shame, right? We have to have the other side to be well-rounded and to be complete, we can say. So with healing, it's very much beating pressure with greater pressure. So it's like withdrawing. When you go to rehab, you withdraw, and the pressure to do heroin is really great, but the pressure, the determination to not do heroin is even greater, right? So you're balancing out the scales, and that withdrawal is simply your whole entire system is recalibrating, and you're very much shaken up by it, right? You're shaken up by it because you have set yourself in that for a very long time. Depending on how long you set yourself, even from childhood, it wants to continue, right? So when you begin to stop it, right, change the current, you're going to recalibrate, you're going to withdraw, and you're going to balance out. Right? But that balancing out of yourself, of the recalibration of your self-concept around, doing heroin, for example, is going to be completely deconstructed and refashioned. And that is like literally you're deconstructing the mainframe, right? And while you're deconstructing the mainframe, your whole entire database, your total iCloud is basically being refurbished, right? It's being remodeled, right? So that's kind of like the withdrawal. And the deeper that we do withdraw, right, the deeper we call into self-hypnosis, where we get into the deeper mainframe, right? The childhood, basically, right? Because a lot of us who have, let's say, a deep withdrawal with heroin, it's because that has been with us since childhood. We might have not done heroin as a child, but we may have had it around us, right? The father may have heroin in his psyche. I mean, he might not even do heroin, but he has it in his psyche from when he was a young man, right? Our grandpa, right? Heroin, right? Heroin is somewhere in our epigenetic code back 7 to 14 generations. It affects us, right? So the deeper we withdraw, even with sex addiction, right? Or even with self-hate, right? Because we went through a childhood where we were in deep dysfunctional household, right? That created the self-hate, self-concept. And then we began to feed it and continue it, and it causes all this disruption to what we really want to do as an adult, which is not excel cheaply. We want to excel with our talents and gifts. So we heal the 0 to 8 psyche formation because there's disruptions, there's weakness that affects us as an adult, that kind of disrupts the patterning that we're trying to create as an adult, right? For prosperity, abundance, a healthy relationship. It's disrupting that patterning we're trying to create. And it can create a disruption also on our expansion as an adult, right? Because all of us, we want to expand beyond our childhood. We don't want to carry the weakness of our mom and our dad and whatever it is. We want to move on. We're like, I'm done. Like, I just want to shake it off and move on, right? But we don't realize, in order to truly move on and to expand, we have to expand our self-concept. Because our self-concept, our character, is the first thing that we create when we are a child. Before our ego, our identity, our persona, our credentials, our relationships. It's our character. And that character is influenced and modeled by the parents and by the household, right? And basically by the weakness and the strength. So in my 0 to 8 years old, you could say, creation of the self-concept, the weakness for me was when my father passed away. I basically would hoard my emotions, harbor my emotions of anger, and I thought to ask for help meant that there's something wrong, and if something wrong was bad, really, really bad. So my weakness is basically, you could, asking for help as something that's wrong, right? And to be wrong, I should be ashamed, right? I should be embarrassed, and I should want to hide that part of myself. So as an adult, recognizing that I isolate, right, myself from people, or I feel like I have to do everything on my own, I can't count on people, that could be a weakness, because we know in our life we need interdependence to really flourish, right? The strength of my childhood, again, because it's a polarity, it's not just weakness, there's also strength. You just have to reflect, look yourself in the mirror and see how is your adult character in image of your childhood self-concept, and how you felt and what you believed and how you lived your life and how you were doing your thing as a child. The strength for me was my mother got me in all kinds of recreational activities, right? I was dance, I was in art, I was in soccer, I was in chess club, I was in theater, I did all these activities. So my strength in my adult life is that I'm very creative, I'm very innovative, and I am very, very knowledgeable on various subjects that are all along creative subjects. That's my strength, right? And I use that strength. I pull from that strength, such as dance and music, to heal and repair the weakness. So in my sort of teenage recover from my weaknesses, right? You can say my weakness, right, from 0 to 8 when my father died, was I used dance and music to express my feelings, because I would not express my feelings. That was my weakness, because I thought something was wrong, and then I would harbor them, and then I would just overall feel not good, right? It would cause a lot of imbalances within me. It caused a lot of pain within me, right? So I used my strength within my earliest childhood to basically pressure myself, right? Greater pressure to polarize, right? To polarize the weakness, right? Such as I can't ask for help becomes now I'm starting to may not ask help from teachers or counselors, but now I'm starting to express my feelings in music and dance, and that becomes a change, right? It becomes a change. And then later on, I become very, very gifted at asking questions, counting on people, and really allowing teamship to be helpful to me, right? So from 0 to 8 years old, that is our mainframe. And again, we like to shake it off, right? We're like, oh man, I got through that. But we don't realize that we do carry that psyche with us. And I do see a lot of people who that childhood anger is a real thing. People in their 50s carry that childhood anger. And we think that we can just shake it off, or we can just push it out of us. But we have to beat pressure with greater pressure. And that's not avoidance, and that's not escapism, and that's not denial, and that's not trying to run away, right? beat pressure with greater pressure is I am determined to polarize that weakness, right? Such as sex addiction. Now I'm determined to sexually honor myself, right? From one destructive to the creative. But the only way we can really balance out the scales is we do have to reflect. We have to look in the mirror. We have to look at how we've been involuntarily continuing this, feeding this self-concept that is disruptive, that makes us feel cheap, that makes us feel restricted and belittled, or are very low in energy, or weakened, right? The pressure to sabotage, right? Let's say you come from a dysfunctional family where your father would beat your mother, but you, as an adult, you want to have love without dysfunction. But the pressure of your weakness is very, very high for you to follow in your father's footsteps, or for you to have a partnership that you sabotage, right? Because the pressure of that weakness can only be beat with greater pressure, right? So the pressure of the father can be you take out the anger on the mother, right? Because that's what you identified with in your childhood, right? Father takes out anger on mother, right? So we involuntarily kind of carry that patterning. And let's say we really want a healthy relationship, right? But we're very scared and we're very nervous because we know that we do carry some sort of the pressure, right, of our weakness, which is to fail at that because of, the childhood aggression. So to beat pressure, right, to with, greater pressure is very much so the father would, take the anger out on the mother, right? I am determined from father, anger on the mother, right? As let's say I'm a man and I have a woman and I want to get close with her, but the pressure to possibly continue a pattern is very high, right? Depending on how disruptive that was in our early childhood. Now I'm determined as a man with this woman to love on this woman. That is beating pressure with greater pressure. So that's polarizing it. So the father, he was determined to belittle his woman, right? And that we witnessed that, and it was very disruptive, and it created a self-concept for us about what is possible, capable, and available for us in love, which is a weakness, right? A habit, a behavior that is very disruptive. So we want to beat that pressure to continue that, right? To feed into that through polarizing it, which is I am determined to love on this woman, and I will do whatever I can to love on this woman, right? So you're beating pressure with greater pressure. So the pressure of the father, right, that was very disruptive, that really caused a self-concept that associated with women as very, very weak and very negative. You to beat that pressure to continue that, which is to polarize, right? From destructive, you're determined to be creative, right? You're determined, instead of hating this woman as your father did to your mother, you're determined to love on this woman and to do whatever you can do to make sure you're loving on this woman. And that's how we usually withdraw, right? We withdraw, we go through that period of we recalibrate, and that's how we get over ourselves, right? Like when we go to rehab, we withdraw because we want to get over ourselves, because we want to do what we came here to do, which is not to just the pressure of weakness, we cave and then we excel cheaply, right? To excel cheaply is to give into the pressure of weakness, right? We didn't come here for that. We didn't want to excel in that. We want to excel for our talents and gifts. But in order for us to really excel in our talents and gifts, which we came here to do, right? That's about wealth and not cheap wealth, charlatan wealth, integrity wealth, right? We really do have to get over ourselves, right? We have to withdraw the weakness of the grief, right? Of the trauma, the pain, whatever it is, that weakness that from 0 to 8 that we kind of was installed within our mainframe as our premise to what is possible and capable and available for us in our adult life. We have to go in there, right? We have to look in the mirror, reflect, and really deconstruct some things, polarize some things, right? From creative comes, from destructive comes creative. We have to balance out the scales, right? So my weakness, the pressure for me when things get rough in a relationship, right, is to not express my feelings, is to walk away and not text the person for a couple of days, because I feel that if I ask for help or if I'm intimate, that something's wrong with me, right? So there's pressure for me to behave that way because of my childhood. So greater pressure, right, is that I'm going to express myself, right? I'm determined to express myself, right? And sometimes it's like with one extreme, you got to go even to the greater extreme just to recalibrate and balance out the scales. So if you have if your extreme is that you just don't, when things get rough in a relationship, you just don't like to talk. You're like, I'm just going to hide and bottle up my feelings, right? Such as myself from, my childhood. You have to beat that with the polarized extreme, which is, you know what, when things are rough, I'm going to express myself, and I'm going to express myself in a whole paragraph of what I feel, right? And if they accept it, they accept it. If they don't, they don't. But I have to do that for me because I have to balance out the scales, right? If I'm extremely unexpressed in relationship, right, when things get rough, I'm extremely disconnect. Then in order to beat the pressure to keep doing that and the disruption of that creates a disconnect in intimacy, I have to do the polarized extreme, which is I'm going to express myself, and I'm going to express it 100%, all of it. I'm just going to do a whole paragraph, and I'm just going to keep going at it, right? That's how we balance out the scale from one extreme to the other extreme. Such as, let's say you are alcoholic, or your father, let's say from ages 0 to 8, your father was not an alcoholic, but he was around a lot of party vibe, right? There was a lot of alcohol, a lot of maybe, people that just have that vibe, that they're just doing a lot of alcohol, and let's say, or your father was an escapism, right? He didn't face his problems. He would just avoid, distract, and deny, and just, find something to get out of the problem, right? And let's say you're a man, and that's a weakness, right? And you are taking on that, you're continuing that weakness as an adult. And you reflect, you're like, wait a minute, this is disruption, right? I want to have a happy relationship, and this is disrupting that. Because this weakness, the pressure for me to cave into this weakness and get into alcoholism, because my childhood self-concept very much set that up for me to go down that path, I have to beat it with greater pressure, which is, instead of drinking alcohol, right, that's destructive, what is the polarity? What is the creative? I'm going to drink water. So as much alcohol, I'm going to drink water, right? And that's how you withdraw, because in the withdrawal, you're recalibrating. It's painful, right? When you deconstruct your mainframe, your whole entire database, your whole entire iCloud is all of a sudden going through a flush, and things are being eliminated, and things are being refashioned, and things are being just remodeled. And it makes you uncomfortable. When you withdraw, you cry, you can scream, you just feel like you're crazy, or you feel like, what's going on with me? Right? It's just like your mainframe being deconstructed and repaired. It's like the computer's like, something's going on, I'm crazy, right? Something is just moving and it's like being recalibrated and everything's kind of like wanky, right? But it's never wanky forever. It's only wanky when you're withdrawing and things are recalibrating and you're beating the pressure, which is to, alcohol, greater pressure. I'm determined to drink a lot of water, right? And that's the withdrawal is actually the will, right? Withdrawal is ugly. When you see people who are withdrawing, they're ugly. They look neurotic. They're like, like they look like they're losing their mind. They look like they're going crazy, right? But that's the will. If you can survive the withdrawal, you have the will, right? Because the withdrawal is always when your psyche is being cleaned. And when you clean your psyche, you shine, right? You get rid of that shit that's built up in your psyche from the weakness that you fed, right? You clean it out. And your psyche, when it's clean, when you shoveled out this shit, you start to shine, right? And when your computer is clean, your computer is more efficient, it's more productive, it's more vital, and your computer is more youthful, right? When you update it, when you cleanse out the stuff, the junk, when you have put protection on your computer to get out those creepy people that are trying to come in and put their viruses up in your computer is a lot more creatively efficient, potent, and ready to expand and give you the wealth of the universe. But you have to withdraw. The computer has to withdraw. You have to restart your computer daily. You have to do those little protection sort of surveillances, right? You have to update your computer. That's how we are able to really recalibrate the computer so that it's always, its character is always in integrity. Right? So when our psyche is just consumed by weakness, we become unruly. That's a charlatan, somebody who's unruly, somebody whose psyche has so much weakness, right? So much restriction on what is possible, capable, and available to them that the only way that they feel like they can actually excel and progress and expand is that they have to basically be a charlatan, right? So example of a charlatan is I had this client, this woman, she came to me very abruptly, kind of in panic, and she told me that she went to a psychic, and this man, had a PhD in medical science, and he became you could say like a holistic, he kind of transitioned into like holistic science. And that became his sort of primary study, and his secondary became like traditional medical science. And he had a PhD, right, pursuing I think like a double PhD or something of that nature. And he told this woman that the reason that her life was not doing well is because she had abortions, and because this woman had several abortions throughout the years. She's about in her 40s. And she was devastated by that. She came to me and she was just heartbroken. She could not believe that she basically was told she was cursed because she had abortions. That she was cursed and she believed him because he had this PhD, right, in medical science. So she was like, he must be legit. If I'm cursed because I've had abortions, then I must, So she felt really terrible. She created this whole identity that she's deserving of bad things because of this curse or whatever. And she also told me that this man said in order for her to clean up the curse, she would have to pay him thousands of dollars for him to do some sort of ritual or seance to basically clean out the negative entities that were attached to him or attached to her. And when she told me that, and I went into channel, right, like Edgar Cayce, and I just told her straight up, I said, girl, this is a spiritual tack, but do not worry. Here's a tool, right? And I gave her a Yogi Bhajan tool, which was like a mantra. It was like a kriya. The mantra was Apsai Hoa, Sache Da, Sache Doa, Hada, 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 with a kriya with it. And it was very much about punching out the entity, right? the right is like creating a protection around you. And right, and I told her that this curse stuff was not real, do not believe, right? And after that, she felt so free, so liberated, right? To know that that these abortions she had does not make her a terrible person, right? So again, charlatan, it don't matter if you got double PhD, you got PhD medical science, holistic science, it don't matter. In the Aquarian age, if you don't have integrity, I don't care about your credentials, I don't care about your rewards, I don't care about your gold medals. Because, right, and she could sniff it out. That's why she came to me. She could sniff it out. She was like, there's something wrong about this. Doesn't feel right. And that's intuition. People are smelling. They can smell it on people. And it don't matter if you got this academic jargon, right? If you don't have integrity, you don't have a clear channel, right? And a clear channel is basically your information that's moving through you is moving through what we call a higher vibrational a resonance, right? There's low vibrational resonance. It's like your information is coming through all of your belief systems, your attitude, your religious sort of pious mental kind of clatter, right? But a clear channel is what we call higher vibrational resonance. And that's what the Aquarian age is about. We need a higher vibrational resonance that information is channeling through, right? Because we're having politicians talking amongst each other about, right, renewable energy, about the climate crisis, about the trash yards, the trash rivers, right? But the friction is not reaching a ingenuity or in intervention or in innovation, is because there has to be a higher vibrational resonance in which this sort of idea is coming through, right? And how we get to that higher vibrational resonance is through integrity, right? But we have to be determined to have integrity. That's the will, that's the withdrawal, right? You withdraw, like, we in the Piscean age, the king would go to the priest to withdraw his sins of killing all these men and women so he can be king and feeling a little bit better about himself. But still, his psyche was dirty as hell, right? Right, that's what we talk about, right? There's a lot of this sort of dying in a dirty man or dirty woman, right? Because we don't just go to the priest and confess our sins and then our psyche is clean, right? It's the determination to bring balance to the scales that actually cleans our psyche, right? So the king does not understand that you can't just go to the priest and then he'll do some sort of seance and then all of a sudden your karma will be clean, right? Even Yogi Bhajan was offered millions of dollars for him to basically do some sort of seance ritual, right, like a priest in the Piscean age, and clean up these rich men's psyche. No, it doesn't happen. Like, you have to balance out the scales yourself, right? And no priest, yogi, guru can do that. Not even a shaman can do that for a person, right? A shaman can give you the higher energy, give you the tool to elevate and get to a higher vibrational resonance so that you can actually withdraw and not lose your mind and go crazy and start doing all this weird stuff. But you have to go through the withdrawal, right? For a king in the Piscean age, a withdrawal is, I killed all these men and women so I could be king. And my karma, you say I have this, my psyche is dirty. And I don't feel too good, right? I feel a little bit nauseous. I feel a little bit sick by the smell of my own psyche, right? So I'm going to the priest because I want to clear it up because I don't feel so good. The way a king would balance it out is through polarizing, right? So what did he do? Killed all these women and children, men, so he could be king. Now polarizing it is turning destructive, determined to be destructive, to determined to be creative. Meaning he, from one extreme to the other extreme, right? Extreme of, I'm going to go do whatever I can to be king. I'm going to do all this nasty stuff, to I'm determined now to be the king that helps all of these people, right? All these men, women, and children from one extreme to the next extreme. That's a lot of times we have to beat pressure with greater pressure. But a lot of people don't make it, even on this planet, when it comes to the pressure of destruction, the pressure of nuclear bombs, or the pressure of economic collapse. Why we can't really beat that pressure is because we don't have greater pressure. We don't have greater pressure determination to actually polarize. Because one extreme, if you're deep in extreme of you have trash rivers, you have to go to a deep extreme in the polarity, right? To balance out the scales. And everything about planet Earth, Mother Gaia, right, will find the balance of the scales, right? Even in this incarnation, you'll find your balance of the scale. So it's whatever you put out, you get back. So if you put out a lot, like Guru Singh says, if you put out a lot, you bet the polarity of that will be the same extreme. You will get a lot, right? And all you have to do is just continue to calibrate yourself in that sort of alignment that's going to get you the most excellence in your natural talents and gifts. So with Guru Jagat in creativity, she says, just put more creativity out, more creativity. Don't stop. Just even if you're giving and giving and giving and giving, and it seems like you're never getting that return investment, when it comes, that return investment will be mega, right? Because whatever you keep giving, the return will be 10 times the amount that you've been giving. So if you just give a little crumb, you're going to get a little crumb and a half back, or kind of thing, right? So that's why in the creativity world, we just keep putting out creativity, because the return of that, right? Your return investment is going to be just as equivalent to the extreme that you're participating in, right? But the same thing with destruction. We're on a polarity planet. So if you are extremely creative, you bet you're going to have spiritual attacks. You bet the destructive nature within you is going to try to sneak in at the night and try to, try to match the creativity. So if you have high levels of creativity, you're going to have high destructive energy rising with that, right? But how we really balance out in that kind of manner is through literally using that destructive energy to destroy what it is that's disruptive in our life, right? You can use the destructive energy that rises as you become supremely creative to basically destroy you, right? And belittle you, and fear and all that, doubt and all that stuff. Or you can use that destructive energy. It's very, very powerful, just as powerful as creative energy. You can use it to destroy your fear, your doubt, and your insecurity. You can use spiritual attack to actually bounce it back. You can use spiritual attack to actually destroy what it is that's holding you back. You can use spiritual attack to bring up what's your worst nightmare. Because when your worst nightmare is brought up from a spiritual attack, that's when you can actually recognize your worst nightmare and you can destroy it. You can't destroy your worst nightmare if you don't even know it, right? So your demons and your whatever destructive thing that's rising with as you become supremely creative, it's going to spiritually attack you. It's going to use fears and, entities or whatever it is to try to, kind of play that game, right? But you can use whatever's being brought up from that spiritual attack to actually help you see your worst nightmare so you can destroy your worst nightmare. Not let it destroy you, but you can destroy it. And that's how a yogi thinks. That's what yogic science is, right? So this is a kind of a different form of, we could talk about polarity when it comes to, if you become extremely creative, you also become extremely destructive, and that's good. Good creative, good destructive, it's good. You just need to know how to work the energy, right, in your favor and not in your demise. Right? Destructive energy is in your favor. Like I said, you can see your inner worst fears and you can destroy them, right? A spiritual attack shows you your weakness, your psychic weakness, your blind spots as a warrior, as a general, right? You need to know your blind spots, because it actually, when you get that spiritual attack, it's a preparation showing you your blind spots. So then when you're out there, in the real field of work, you already know. So you can already destroy whatever sort of a disruption that may come in through a hole in your blind spot and cause major disruption, right? This is what a yogic science is. This is what a yogi thinks, right? So, and the creative is just simply about, it's about magnetism. It's about empowerment. It's about pull, right? You're pulling your army together. You're pulling yourself together. You're pulling creativity, your manifestation. You're pulling your business. You're pulling your relationship together. It's about magnetic pull, magnetism. That's creativity. Destruction is about demagnetizing. Right? Demagnetizing is about, I am like literally, pulling apart, right? I am demagnetizing as in I am deconstructing, I'm eliminating, right? I am dissolving, I'm sweating. That's what demagnetizing is. But we need both. We need to be able to demagnetize as well as magnetize, right? We talk about the white, which is about come to me, and the black, which is about get away from me. We have to have both on this planet. We have to know when to wear that black when we're at night, when we don't want the animals attacking us, right? The lions and bears and oh my, right? And we need to know in the white when we need things to come to us and we need things to come to us. We have to have both, right? We have to have black. We have to be able to get away. Right? Because we are safe when we have to have white where it says come to me now, because I need to build and I need to make something happen. I need these things to come to me now, right? And that's kind of the yogic science of being able to shape shift the polarity and not let the polarity get you off of your center and kind of do this wanky stuff with you. Polarity is like flipping a coin, right? You don't want to just be at the mercy of what the coin flips on you. You want to be the one who can flip the coin. You want to be the one who actually knows how to flip your own energy, who knows how to magnetize, knows how to demagnetize. You need to know how to beat pressure with greater pressure. You need to know how to turn this, sex addiction, right, that's very disruptive and destructive, to polarize it into sexual honor, right? That's polarizing it. Right? That's balance of the scales. And the more masterful we become at balancing of the scales, the more we tend to be centered, and we tend to have what we call like an even plane where we can see our horizon. We can see through the mountain, we can see around us. And the greatest sort of thing to have is your ability to see, to look out and to see clearly. When you're wanky and when you're not off your center, when you're not on an even plane, when you're not well-rounded, you can't see clearly. Therefore, you can't defend yourself clearly. Therefore, you don't know what's coming, right? Just like any sort of soldier, any sort of general who is, doing the strategic plan for the army, wants to be able to see, know, to plan, to see what's going on, what's behind me, what's in front of me, what's the side of me, what kind of plane of field am I on? Right? What's off in the distance? What's way behind me? Right? Because the more that you do have that intuitive sort of steadiness and center where you kind of can sense what's going on around you, the more the more instinctually sort of led you are, rather than a lot of people are just led aimlessly, where they make big change, they get a big reaction, because change creates reaction, and they freak out because they're not prepared, right? They're not prepared, they don't know what's going on because they don't have a center, right? They don't understand the polarity. They don't understand when you do magnetize, you also are demagnetizing. When I magnetize my music strength, right, my music gift, I'm also demagnetizing my unproductivity, right? When I magnetize productivity through music, I'm demagnetizing unproductivity. That's polarity. That's the duality. That's what we're dealing with on this planet. Everything is magnetism and demagnetizing magnetism, right? So when we understand, then we start to get in the balance of the scales. Then we start to really get what we understand as karma and the cause and effect and the dharma, and what you give out, you get back, and the reap what you sow, and all these kinds of things, right? And the more that you are aware, like a general, right, the more you can actually get things done, right? You can actually move forward in a way that you're moving forward very strategically and very, very, very knowledgeably, right? Instead of like, I change and then all this reaction and then I'm kind of freaking out and then I'm sort of wounded and I'm tired because I don't really know what's going on, right? The balance of the scales, you create change, you get a reaction, right? When you get a reaction, usually you make change, and it just keeps going and going, right? So the more that we can be in that balance of the scales, the more that we can really understand, right? Beat pressure with greater pressure, right? The pressure to flunk out, the pressure to whatever it is, beat it with greater pressure to polarize that thing. Then we start to really find our stability within this polarity planet. Stability within, I have to wear black because I have to be able to hide, or from the bears, tigers, oh my. I have to also be able to wear white because I have to bring to myself what I need, right? I have something I want to do and I need things to come in so I can do it, right? So it's like the seasons, it's like change, it's like the sun and the moon, and we are all revolving with it. And when we start to evolutionary evolve with these sort of polarity, sort of duality, then we no longer become dualistic. Then we no longer become I'm good, I'm bad, she's good. No longer do we become governed by I'm shameful and that's it. No, I have shame and I have expression, right? There's just two sides to one coin. When we have the two sides to one coin, we're more well-rounded, we have understanding, and we're able to move forward. As long as we're unclear and we're misunderstanding or misappropriating everything, we can't really move forward. We're kind of halted, right? People who have just shame, they're halted. There's a restriction on what they're possible, capable, and available to them. It's halted, it's restricted. When we become well-rounded, when we understand that I am shame and I'm expression, I am blame and I am compassion, right, the polarity, then I can have understanding, then I can move forward, then I can expand what is possible for me to give and to receive, what is capable for me to give and receive, and what is available for me in life to have, to obtain, and to excel in. And that's what we came here to do. We came here to expand on what is possible, capable, and available to us, for not only for ourselves but for our whole generation. But we have to withdraw. We have to withdraw the weakness of our 14 generations and the 32,766 people within 14 generations of epigenetic code. We have to be able to withdraw all of that continuation of weakness that has caused us to excel cheaply or caused us to cave into a weakness, the pressure of the self-concept to live restricted in possibility, capability, and what is available to us. We have to be able to withdraw. We have to be able to have the will to go through extreme withdrawal and to not lose our mind and to not lose our footing and to not lose our grace, but to breathe, to push through it and to beat that pressure with great pressure to hold the pose. Just like a yogi, right? You're holding a yogic pose that's very, very extreme, right? It's very difficult. But when you hold it, right, the pressure to not hold it is extreme, but the pressure you put on yourself to hold it is how usually a yogi is able to break through, right? Break through the block, break through the limitation, break through the restriction and what is possible, capable, and available for them to do. When you push past, all of a sudden your spine is possibility that is beyond what your mother, your grandmother, your great-grandmother could do with their own spine. You all of a sudden have broke the sound barrier. You all of a sudden have broke the whatever sort of ancestral limitation that has been playing out for generations. You have liberated the spine of these women just by you putting pressure on yourself, greater pressure to hold that pose. Use your will as you withdraw and you go through all these pains and aches and all kinds of things to get to the other side, which is expansion. Limitation, withdrawal, and expansion. Limitation, right? I'm set, my spine can't do any more than this because this is just, my childhood demands that I can't do more than this, right? Because I wasn't possible, capable, or available to me in my childhood. The withdrawal is literally, I'm going through it, I'm doing it, I'm determined to polarize it, and to my spine can't stretch. I'm determined to make it stretch, right? The withdrawal is like going through the pain, right? The sweat, the tears, the like, what's going on? I'm losing my mind. I'm crazy. I'm stupid. I took a risk. Like, this is not worth it. Like, oh my gosh, like I'm such a da-da-da, to the other side, right? Limitation, withdrawal, and breakthrough, right? When you get into that breakthrough, you expand. Limitation, withdrawal, expansion. And I think when we reach expansion, we're moving beyond charlatan. Charlatan is a weak person who has all these limitations, and they don't know how to navigate their life because they have all these limitations. They may have all these PhDs, but they still have all these limitations, and they're functioning from limitation, right? And that means I have to be a charlatan, right? I'm so limited in what is possible, capable, and available for me to receive in money that I'm just going to do limitations to get money, a charlatan to get money. But never do these people feel good, right? Because that's not what we came here to do. We came here to excel in our talents and gifts, not to cheaply win through presenting limitations for other people's lives to feed our own sort of win. But all we're winning at is just giving little limitations and then just continuing our own limitations. We came here to excel through expansion, through our own withdrawal, not through going to a preacher, a guru, a yogi, and they cleaning up our karma for us. No, through our own withdrawal do we actually experience breakthrough and victory, win, excellence. That is through our talents and gifts, our artistry. Artistry in its expansion. It's expansion of politics, culture, ideology, religion. It's expansion. But artistry, when we look at it from integrity, it is a point of I've withdrawed the restriction and limitation on what it means to be art, right? To be artistically evolving. And now I've expanded, right? I expanded with that. I am determined to broaden what is possible, capable, and available to me through my own ability to withdraw the weakness and to beat the pressure with greater pressure, like the yogi, to hold that position of the polarity, right? From destructive to creative, right? So sex addiction, I'm determined to hold the position of sexual honor so that I can refashion my total character, my self-concept, so that my psyche begins to vibrate at a higher octave. And the highest vibrational resonance on this planet is balance of the scales. Where there is imbalance, we're at a low vibration. Balance of the scales is the highest vibrational resonance on planet Earth. And when we begin to vibrate that, we begin to transcend duality, dualistic sort of limitation that really just causes us to be really confused and causes us to really be irresponsible and to really think that we're just low vibrational being that's just shame or challenge or blessing and expression. Then we start to become more understanding, we become more well-rounded, and when we are well-rounded, we become true innovation that's about balancing of the scales through a higher vibrational resonance that is determination and beating pressure with greater pressure. And that is what we call will. That's called we're withdrawing, right? Withdrawing of this climate crises, right? Where we talk about the pressure, right, is to just keep these greenhouse gases pumping into the atmosphere, right, or these trash rivers continuing. The pressure to keep it going like that because it's easy. It's less pressure to keep it like that. But we're understanding that to beat the pressure for our planet to be trash rivers, we have to have greater pressure. So we have to enjoy pressure, right? It's very easy to keep the pressure of we call the trash rivers. It's less pressure than greater pressure, which is to, get the shovel and clean it up. But when we beat pressure with greater pressure, we gain a deeper character. We gain integrity. And integrity is the Aquarian age. And integrity is the innovation that's actually going to bring about our expansion, right, within what is possible, capable, and available to us within our nation, within our international United Nation, and with our international global community. It's going to expand what is possible for us to do as job, as education, as healing, as medicine, what is capable us for do when it comes to harmony, environmental pursuits, when it comes to educational sort of reform, and what is available to us, resources, renewable energy, sustainable energy, clean energy. When we expand our character from charlatan to integrity, we become expanded in what is possible, capable, and available to us. And that is when we begin to vibrate at a higher vibrational resonance, right? And when we are at a high vibrational resonance, we are very expansive, and we're not so caught in our limitation and restriction, and I can't do it because it's not available, and I can't do it because it's not possible, and I can't do it because it's not capable for me to clean up these trash rivers, right? It's so much easier to just let it be, right? When we vibrate at a higher vibrational resonance, which is possible, capable, available to us, then our integrity, it becomes very natural. We get stronger as a human on this planet Earth. And then what seems as great pressure, right, to a yogi that has been doing great pressure for decades of 8 hours of meditation is nothing. It becomes nothing to us. It becomes, you hold your arms for 8 hours in this funky position of yogic science, and it's like, whoo, That's what we need on this planet. That's integrity. But you have to go through the withdrawal, where literally when you withdraw, when you're holding your arms for 8 hours in a yogic science position, your arms are shaking, your whole body's shaking, you're sweating, you're crying, your muscle spasms are galore, but you do it because you know when you get through that withdrawal, what's on the other side? Expansion. And this expansion has nothing to do with the technology, nothing to do with the information or the knowledge, right? That's this technology age. It has to do everything with your ability to handle your withdrawal with integrity and to not lose your mind, like a lot of people are doing on this planet. People are withdrawing like they're finally getting off their heroin, which is called their egomania from the Piscean age. And they're withdrawing and they're losing their mind. Literally, people are withdrawing and they're like people in rehab, like screaming and crying and because they don't understand that withdrawal is their expanding. If they knew that, they would probably know this integrity test. So let me excel, not let me, the weakness, let it, let the pressure of it completely consume me to the point where I shut down, collapse. Let me excel. Let me expand. And that's what we as adults are doing, and we do it through the channel of 0 to 8 years old. That's when the self-concept, the character is reflected upon, whatever it is. Look at your childhood, look at your father, look at your mother, look at whatever happened, the pain, the loss, the grief, the relocation, the whatever it is. Reflect, look at it in the mirror and see that self-concept, see that character, see what it is that was possible, capable, and available to you, and withdraw any lower energies that you might have attracted, weaknesses that really put a lot of limitation, restriction on what is possible for you to really excel in naturally with your talents and gifts. And really withdraw, right? Polarize that stuff like we've talked about, so that you can really experience, you can really begin to experience the healing and the repairing of your character. Right? Because a lot of us have a childhood where our self-concept, our character is completely diminished and belittled and all kinds of things from our childhood, right? We think, we act, we have attitude, we behave, we have habits that are very disruptive to our excellence. But when we reflect upon that and we withdraw all that kind of stuff, right, through polarizing and pressure, beat pressure with greater pressure, then we start to really redefine our psyche, and we begin to really alchemize our psyche into what we know as a psyche of integrity. And there's no greater sort of broadcast on this planet than a psyche of integrity. And that's the yogis. That's Yogi Bhajan, right? He was a scientist, basically. He didn't have no PhD, but his integrity within his psyche was so thorough that his broadcast was so clear. And the greatest thing you could give is a clear psyche broadcast, right? There's a lot of people, even politicians, you can see their psyche. You can literally see the dirt of whatever it is that they'd be doing behind the scenes with their limitations, restrictions, and their low energy that's really not able to handle the pressure with greater pressure and to actually excel, right, through talents and gifts, not excel through cheap ways of low energy, right, to get a cheap sort of stable position, right? Yogi Bhajan's integrity was very, very thoroughly, his broadcast was very, very clear. And when we look at the higher vibrational resonance of our psyche is very clear, right? But it's only clear because we have expanded through the excellence of our talents and gifts. But we have to be determined, and we have to withdraw, we have to go through it to get to the place where the disruption of our lives is no longer interlocking and playing us as a fool or playing us foolish. No longer, right? We have the tool. Our psyche becomes a tool, not an enemy, not a trash yard. Our psyche becomes a tool, becomes a clear channel, becomes integrity. Literally, your psyche can literally, in some sort of, in Eastern culture, there are literally a practice of, I don't know what it's called, where literally the psyche of these Eastern men, these Asian men, they can push out people. It's almost like a defense, like a fighting, like their people are fighting them, and they can literally push out without even touching these men that are attacking them. They can push them away through the psyche and the power of the clear psyche. When your psyche is clear, your projection, your channel is very powerful, right? Meaning when you project your energy out in the cosmos, you're projecting a clear, precise channel that is very penetrative, and so much so that literally your whole chi, your whole energy system will move in that direction, because you are united, because you are centered, because you have balance in the scales. So your psyche, when it has integrity, it literally pushes out. The broadcast is so empowered and so powerful that literally you can literally penetrate into anything, even a person, right? You think, whatever it is, you can penetrate so miraculously and really create like a shift, like quantum leap just in that moment, breaking of time, space barriers, breaking of conventions. You can break through limitations and restrictions on what is possible, capable, and available, such as it's impossible for somebody to push somebody away without touching them. You, when your psyche is that clear and your characters that has that much integrity, you literally break through the sound barrier. You break through any limitation, restriction, just like the Matrix movie. And that's what Yogi Bhajan was very much teaching us in the Aquarian Age, how to really beat this restriction and limitation that says that It's impossible for us to clean up the trash rivers. It's impossible for us to, these dogs in South America that are just roaming the streets. It's impossible for us to take care of them, so let's just all kill them, right? Or there's so many, it's impossible, and it's not capable, and it's not available to us. Right? Yogi Bhajan was basically about getting out that nonsense, giving us a tool, giving us a higher vibrational resonance so that we could have that tool, install it within our psyche, get an integrity so that we can cut through these restrictions and limitations that are disrupting us from doing what we need to do in order to bring balance of the scales to this planet, which is from the Piscean age of karma. After karma came the opposite extreme. What is that? Dharma, right? One extreme to the next extreme, right? Dharma, which is about creativity, artistry, one and the other, self, reform of culture, right? Music, dance, celebration, expansion, right? So Yogi Bhajan was very much giving us the tool to implant in our psyche so that we literally, the mantras, the recitation, right? The jap, recitation of mantra, as a sort of premise that's going to lead our Aquarian age into the victory. Yogi Bhajan gave this so that we can have the integrity we need, because the charlatans are going to be coming out of everywhere. They're going to feed us false promises. They're going to feed us basically limitation. That's how you know it's a charlatan. They say limitation and restriction all day long. But never do they say innovation. Never do they speak of creativity, right? That's integrity. Integrity is about, I only speak of innovation and creativity and problem solving. I do not speak of limitation and restriction, right? Because to that yogi, right, expansion, has no halt. Expansion has no halt. It only has withdrawal and breakthrough, and you're just one or the other. You're withdrawing, which is very painful, or you're breaking through, which is like you're riding the wave, like you just got over major hump. And breakthrough is like, oh yes, I'm riding the wave. It's not so difficult anymore, right? From 8 hours of holding my arms, it was the most painful thing I've ever did. A week later, I'm just doing it, and I don't even know a sense of pain. That's yogic science, right? So when we see politicians speaking of innovation, speaking of problem solving and creativity, right, through education, through community, through projects, right, form of activity, recreational activity, activity that involves getting the people thinking and being collaborative, that's integrity, right? Limitation, restriction, it's very much, it's cheap. It's a cheap win. It's a cop-out. It's I don't really know what to do, so I'm just going to do whatever and just get whatever, right? We don't need politicians that are just doing whatever. We need, because what it is, you reap what you sow. If I give out whatever, I'm going to get back whatever, right? That's just the balance of the scales. So if I give out innovation to the people, you bet I'm going to get back innovation from the people. If I give out educational reform, you bet I'll get back educational reform. It's called change and it's called reaction, right? And reaction, the more intense and abrupt the change is, the more reactive the people will be. But reaction doesn't necessarily mean it's negative. Change with a reaction is just how it is, right? And reaction, when you can get a handle on yourself, you can actually use that reaction to get you more clear, to get you more knowledgeable and understanding, not to lose your head and to go berserk, but to really go deep and to reflect and see what it is that I need to do to get through this withdrawal, to get to the breakthrough, and to be determined at moving this change and this reaction, to keep it moving, to keep it circulating, to keep me on my toes, right? To keep me expanding instead of getting halted and stagnant and feared and what's going on and So I'm going to share this with you guys, and I hope that this sort of lecture on the psyche from the character and the integrity of the self concept developed the premise of our life making in ages 0 to 8